I think recently Taiwanese people doubt not only the United States' intention but also the United States' ability to so-called defense, to come to Taiwan's defense against Chinese mainland. And there have been at least 3 symbolic events. First, Biden's sudden decision to withdraw the U.S. troops from Afghanistan. And the second one is the Russia-Ukraine war in the next year, 2022. And it absolutely exacerbated Taiwan's people's worry. And third, there's also a symbolic event for us, that is recently high tariffs imposed by the United States on Taiwan.
今天这期节目呢，相当的特别，是日前呢，我接受了一位叫做钟翔宇的自媒体主持人，他的访谈，用的呢是英语来进行问答。那么翔宇兄啊，他是台籍青年，从小呢是在美国长大。即便如此啊，他拥有一颗中国心，那么主要在 YouTube 上主持许多英文访谈的节目，向西方世界来介绍正确的两岸关系以及台湾的政治，导正许多西方人，包括海外华裔对台湾问题的认知。他本身也是优秀的 rap 饶舌歌曲的创作者以及演唱者，大家可以订阅他相关 YouTube 的频道。一个呢是 Straight Talk with 翔宇，主要呢就是英语政论的频道；另外一个呢是他的中文姓名钟翔宇这样的一个账号，那么主要是他音乐 MV 的作品。
So, given these shifts in U.S. policy and strategic attitudes, it's no surprise that public opinion over here in Taiwan is beginning to shift as well, and more people are starting to question the long-standing assumptions about our relationship with Washington. So I want to shift our conversation towards how the international situation is impacting the voices on the ground here in Taiwan. I think so many things, even in just the last few months or maybe the last year, have changed. And I mean, for well over a decade, both of us have spoken to our audiences here in Taiwan. I mean, yours is much bigger than mine, about U.S. hegemony. But until more recently, most people just thought we were crazy.
And most of people doubt the United States' ability.
Exactly. I mean, now, 疑美论, the theory of questioning the U.S.'s intentions is becoming more and more. I'm not saying it's completely mainstream yet, but it's a sizable portion of the public opinion nowadays. So besides the things that we've talked about so far, what are some current events that have happened in the last couple of years that have led many in Taiwan to reevaluate Taipei's relationship with Washington?
I think recently Taiwanese people doubt not only the United States' intention but also the United States' ability to so-called defense, to come to Taiwan's defense against Chinese mainland. And there have been at least 3 symbolic events. First, Biden's sudden decision to withdraw the U.S. troops from Afghanistan. And that just reminded of some elder generations in Taiwan of similar withdrawals from Vietnam in 1975, and also the similar one from Taiwan in 1979. And also many people still remember that the United States hit their decision to break off the formal diplomatic relations with Taiwan's authorities in 1978. They hit that decision in secret until only about 7 hours before the United States decided to announce it. So more and more Taiwanese people have become worried about being abandoned by the United States in the near future. And the second one is the Russia-Ukraine war in the next year, 2022. And it absolutely exacerbated Taiwan's people's worry. The term U.S. skepticism, in Chinese 疑美论, has been mentioned for more and more times than before in Taiwan's media. And even though the DPP made great efforts to use the Ukraine war as a positive example to teach Taiwanese people that we can also hold on as so long as Ukraine did if a cross-strait war breaks out. However, the very fact that we see is the United States never comes to Ukraine's war. So the Ukraine's case told us that not only the United States would not come to defense for Ukraine, for other countries, and also we found the fact that Ukraine's President Zelensky, he was even bullied by Donald Trump and his subordinates at the White House just several months ago. And third, there's also a symbolic event for us, that is recently high tariffs imposed by the United States on Taiwan. And that's unthinkable and terrible to most of Taiwan's people, since Taiwan's economy relies heavily on export orientation. So that's really a big blow to people's livelihood in Taiwan. And even though DPP authorities have complied to almost all the United States demands, Taiwan still got, just like what you mentioned, a big deal, worse than South Korea and Japan. So therefore, more and more people argue that Taiwan should not rely on the United States, but fight against Beijing on our own. I think it's still not correct direction we need to think about it. So what I want to lead people to think is, why should we always fight against Beijing? Why? And we also need to think, is the United States' interests always in accordance with Taiwan's? I think it's very clear, especially in tariff negotiations. It's definitely not. So why can we unify with Beijing to counter the United States demands, the United States, I think, even economic threat to Taiwan? And also, according to the U.S.-China Shanghai Communique in 1972, the United States has claimed its interests in a peaceful settlement of the Taiwan question by the Chinese themselves. So I can also tell our audience and the United States that without the U.S. intervention, Taiwan question will be resolved more easily, quickly, and peacefully.
I think after all of these symbolic events that have happened, what you are saying is more and more people are perhaps beginning to understand that the United States has never viewed us as equal partners or friends, but as a chess piece, like we've talked about today. Would you say this is correct?
Yep, of course. The United States always think of Taiwan as a chess piece, not so-called partner. But most of Taiwan's politicians still keep on cheating Taiwanese people. It's because Taiwan's politicians and United States politicians can all win by cheating Taiwanese people that the United States can be a protector of Taiwan and can so-called defend Taiwan against Chinese mainland. Through promoting this idea, the politicians of both Taiwan and the United States can gain huge benefits. The United States politicians can make their tough anti-Chinese shows and help them get domestic votes and bargain with Beijing. And especially, the United States military-industrial complex gain huge profit from military sales to Taiwan. And besides, Taiwan's politicians can also get support by convincing people that they can keep good relations with the United States and to ensure Taiwan's safety. But however, I think to the common people in Taiwan, recently the situations has been changed. While some of them still keep in confidence with the United States, some have begun to doubt whether the United States' interests can be in accordance with Taiwan's or not. And just like what I said, especially in recent tariff negotiations, the answer seems to be more clear. Taiwan has been demanded to sacrifice TSMC and to increase investments into the United States and to purchase more American products assigned by Trump. But in fact, no one knows if and how it can exchange for tariff reduction. But DPP authorities just comply with the United States all demands nevertheless. So it really triggers people to reevaluate the United States' role in Taiwan's future. And just like what I mentioned, to rethink why we only rely on the United States and why we always keep in fighting against Beijing. So finally, although TPP has still lured people to an assumption that the United States will come to Taiwan's defense if we sacrifice anything the United States demanded, in fact, it's only implied and never be absolute. So in Ukraine's war, we see it very clearly that even Ukraine military has held on more than 3.5 years. The United States has never come to Ukraine's defense. And just let me talk a real story. In 2017, I visited Washington and met a former senior official, the United States official in charge of Taiwan affairs. And he told me that you should hold on within 2 to 3 weeks to let the United States decide whether to support Taiwan's defense or not if war occurs. You know, he said within 2 to 3 weeks. But however, in Ukraine's war, more than 3 years, and the United States still never come.
Could you name who the senior official is? Or?
It's a very famous one, but I just need to hide it in secret.
Okay, you can tell me afterwards.
Okay.
So I think it's very clear that our relationship with Washington is closer to Ukraine's relationship than Israel's, which is very funny because I don't know if you know this, but there are a lot of pro-China commentators in the West who don't quite understand Taiwan's situation, who talk about Taipei as if it's Tel Aviv. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. The relations between Taiwan and United States is like relationship between Ukraine and United States rather than Israel and the United States. Because in Ukraine case, just like what I mentioned for several times, neither Biden nor Trump sent troops to assist Ukraine. They sent many military aids to Ukraine. But most of Republicans criticize it very fractiously. So after Trump took on his presidency, he just revealed his straight unfriendliness and intolerance to Zelensky and even butted him at the White House. So that's Ukraine case. But in Israel case, both Biden and Trump shows very aggressively and very actively to support Israel against Palestine. So that's different. And as a matter of fact, in the very beginning of Ukraine war, DPP in Taiwan was frightened and scared and worried about Taiwan might be the next one. So at that time, they emphasized for several times that Taiwan will not become Ukraine. At that time, they said that. But gradually, since the war seems to be protracted war, DPP had shifted their attitude, and they began to use Ukraine war as a positive example and to teach Taiwanese people that we can learn after Ukraine. And if we can hold on as long as Ukraine did, we can get support from the United States. So Tsai Ing-wen also used this case for the reason why she decided to extend Taiwan's military compulsory service, extended into 1 year. In Ukraine case, even though they have held on for more than 3 years, but the United States has never come. And recently, the United States even demanded Zelensky to accept the armistice conditions of ceding territories. So undoubtedly, Taiwan's condition is worse than Ukraine war if war occurs, because we don't have enough strategic depth. And Taiwan's military can only hold on about several hours to a week, or just like what I mentioned, the former official of the United States demanded Taiwan should hold on within 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, even we hold on within 2 to 3 weeks, it's useless because in Ukraine's case, they held on for more than 3 years. And how? What happened?
All of the men are gone.
Yes. So just more people dead in battles, right? So I really want to lead more Taiwanese people to rethink about why we always insist on combating with Beijing or fighting against Chinese mainland, or why we reject any peaceful proposal for Taiwan's question.
Why fight our own countrymen, our own brothers and sisters for the foreigner?
Yes, we are one family, right? As a matter of fact, we are all one family. We are all Chinese. Why should we fight with each other? Why we always insist on this ideology? And why we always think our interests can be in accordance with the United States?